Hey, what's up, guys? What up, beautiful people? What's happening? Mr. Feud here, back with another one. And as I promised y'all before, we are doing the bonus content here, and we'll just be doing the whole meshing up together of all the meshes. Excuse the pun. Probably why they're called meshes. So we'll be putting all the parts together, and with a little bit of a bonus extra, which we will be starting off with, which will be showing you how to append files into a scene. So taking files from another file and bringing it into an existing one. In terms of the normal workflow, project workflows, this would be generally like a part of your master file. So you'd use a master file and then have all your other segments and parts be brought into a master file. So Torso 2 is generally functioning as our master file right now, but not all that necessary. So that being said, let's activate our screencast keys and make sure that it's available for y'all to see. What we're gonna do, considering where we started off, this is the file we're gonna need to get to. We need to come to our head folder, select the head folder. This is where we'll be finding our let's not go to object, mesh. We want the vertex information in case we want to sculpt, which is what we want to do. So come into the head.blend file, go into meshes and select the files that you want. Quad sphere refers to the head sculpt itself, and sphere refers to the eyes. If you go into the object data, as you can see, they are actually titled as eyeball and head. So as mesh, in terms of mesh data, it doesn't seem to forget the source of the information, so it keeps the title as that, as is. And that having been selected, we will click on append. Okay, after clicking on append, your file, your meshes should be imported into the scene here, and as you can see, they are available and visible within the space. Now that having been done, what we need to do now is obviously get our scaling to be right. And by the way, sorry for forgetting my screencast keys here, but I'm sure you guys don't really need them at this point, considering everything that we've done through this whole exercise. Now what we want to do is select the head and the eyeballs and GZ and bring it up to more or less a position where we will want it to be. As you can see, the scaling is a bit off. The head is the same size. If you want to create a bobblehead, feel free, guys, have fun. It is meant to be a fun process, so do exactly that, have fun with it. And GZ and bring it down. And I'm not sure how long we want his neck to be, but it shouldn't be too long from what I understand. Should be reasonable. And the head size as well. So when I press G and I press the Z for the axes, which is weird because it's not showing it on the screencast, yeah, we just generally want to get his head to be more or less in a space and region that we are happy and comfortable with, and that looks just about alright. Maybe slight bit of scaling down more, and GY and bring it forward, and GZ a little bit, and I think that should look just about right. In terms of basic knowledge of proportions, this guy is a little bit extra built, so he'll be kind of a little bit out of those proportions. Generally the head must fit 3 times horizontally in the body. For those of you that have studied illustration and have done much of studying of drawing in itself as a study and principle, that's how it works. So it's just GY a little bit, bring his head a bit more forward, and we're gonna need to make some adjustments to the torso in itself, looking at its scaling. Alright, so at this point what we're gonna do, by the way, guys, I'm gonna hide any mesh that's unnecessary to have, bring in the arms just so we can have a good idea of our proportions, and now those are good. those look perfect. And alright, we're sorted. What we're gonna do, guys, is do some sculpting. What we'll do is we'll go into a little bit of a time lapse right now, but you guys should be able to follow along without any problems. Looking at the arms and the shoulders and everything, all should be well, and we won't have issues here. So yeah, let's get into this quickly, and I'll just give you a couple of tips here and there in the time lapse, and add some commentary, and once we're done I'll show you the rest of the process. Before we get that, apply your multi-resers so the meshes are solid. There we go. Let's hide the arms. Alright guys, again there we're just using the grab brush, just adding in a little bit of a volume, getting some volume back where we need it, from the pectorals and here down towards the gluteus maximus. And excuse the sound of the sirens in the background, don't really have much of a choice there. And they're just dragging in the cervical muscles around the neck, just making sure everything aligns properly, and we're just bullioning the two meshes together. You guys have seen this entire process, and yeah, we're just taking the clay brush and with dynamic topology active just to even out the topology there, fixing up some artifacts from the fall off and general error of calculation, and yeah, dragging in those cervical muscles down. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. That's actually one of the greatest things to always add in your sculpt when you're sculpting the head and the human body in general. If you add those cervical muscles, it actually makes it look all that much better. And here we're just adding in the umpembo, as it is called in Zulu, a South African language, aka the throat and well, the larynx, I guess. And there we go. And here we're just smoothing out a little bit of where we need, adding some slight volume. We can't have any of these bony landmarks really standing out on him. I mean, he's a well-built character, therefore the likelihood of that bone structure standing out is very slim to none. And they were just bullioning the arms to the body and just editing slightly, getting a little bit of shift to it. And yeah, and there we just the grab brush, putting the mesh together, getting our sculpt right. And there we have it bullioned, and the sculpting process then begins. And once again with dynamic topology active, just clucking in a little bit of volume there into the shoulders, getting the joining part of the muscles to become a little smoother, evening of topology, and adding some volume there to our deltoids, into the trapezius, rocking a little bit more down into the rhomboid area, and some more of those cervical muscles that come from the trapezius. What's actually the trapezius muscles that, well, they run all the way from the back of your neck. So yeah, and just adding in some of that volume, grab brushing it, getting those shoulders to look good. Yeah, nothing hectic here going on, guys. Processes you're very familiar with. It's all we've been doing the whole time. So now it's just using it to finish up our whole mesh and add it all together. And this whole process will just keep looping back from the attaching of the head to the arms to the hands themselves, and to the distal limbs, the lower limbs, the inferior of the body. And there, just rocking a little grab brush, we'll just bring in some of that volume in. And there we have our bullion for the hand added. A little bit of dynamic topology there. You'll get artifacts otherwise, considering that the meshes don't exactly match in terms of vertices, and adding in some of that volume towards where the wrist joins in, where we have the tendon standing out. Doing a little check work, see how everything looks, plan it out a little bit. Adding in that bony landmark on the wrist there, from the ulnar part, which is of the two bones in your forearm, the one that goes to the pinky, as we know, and adding in a little bit more of that flesh into it, getting it to have some good volume to it. Always working with my references there. Never stop working with reference images, guys. It is important. It really improves My sculpting gets better each time. I actually redid this a few times just for this process, and you'll get better each time as long as you pay attention to it. And there we just grab brushing, filling in the lower part, the distal part of the abdomen, of the torso, and just bullioning those, and just bullioning those legs into it. And that's our bullion applied. And going back into dynamic topology, and we can just come back and work in some of those gluteus medius muscles right into the structure, and just refining its lining, its edging, and the muscles, and your leg muscles, your femoral muscles, just back in, adding in a little bit of those gluteus muscle, a little bit of that gluteus muscle structure to the back. This will be a little bit of a process, just checking on volume, smoothing back out, grab brush just to adjust. He's looking a little bit like the koi sand there, so I just need to make a few adjustments, looking a bit too feminine. But do remember these legs are slightly set apart, so it won't be so simple. And in terms of brushwork, that was the pinch brush just to get it to Van Damme together a little bit more. By that I mean that, squeeze the butt cheeks a little bit more. All the Boondocks fans out there will will find that to be a little bit funny. And that's about the gist of the process. From here it's just a little bit of retopo, and now that we're done with the entire sculpting process, everything's been parented and grouped into a single mesh, and we can actually come here and pretty much delete all these other files, and let's just do a save as. Just call this torso 3, it's fine. Let's say body final. I'll see about making this available to y'all if you want the mesh with the whole process done. Currently on sale on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm not sure it would allow this, so you guys can just drop me an inbox if you want this mesh, and like to your Dropbox or whatever, or your Gmail account, and see what we can do about that. Alright, so we shall save that file. Now that we have this, bring the eyes back. Now the aim here is to try and get this to become low res once again, and you'll have to be smart about this when you're doing it with your own files, and really be very smart about how you go about this, because there are easier ways, and there are parts and steps within this entire working process that we've gone through that you might want to switch up a little bit in terms of the order. The work will stay the same, but you might want to switch up your approach to be able to make this step that I'm about to show you now function a lot better and be easier. So for that part, yeah, we'll let you discern and figure it out. Hopefully you guys come up with some good solutions. It's really not all that difficult, to be honest. I think it's something you can figure out. It's quite an intermediary kind of thing to do. Now we've got our sculpt, it's been put together. What I want us to do is shift duplicate it, release it, and let's just wait. I'm gonna Control Z that. Okay, now we've got our sculpt, shift duplicate, and there we have our duplicate, and right click so it can snap back right into its center. We will title this one body remesh, just to make our life easier. Obviously you can see what this is gonna be all about. But here's where the being clever part has to come in, guys. Let's just hide the original body, come back into sculpt mode, and remember now we have a very high res mesh. If you want to have a good quick see at it, just pushing tab there on the keyboard. As you can see, my PC is now loading up. It's actually trying to calculate, but the whole thing looks pretty much black just because of the number of vertices there are within the sculpt. So that's something that needs a little bit of some adjusting. And I mean, there's so many vertices that look at the outline itself is kind of drawing his entire figure and the detailing. Now this is when you know you have completely way too many vertices. It looks like a solid black color. So sorry about that, should have just pushed tab and went back into sculpt mode. But there we have it. Then using our familiar method of remeshing, I'm going to drop this down to about a let's say a 0.5, just for the sake of you guys seeing this. Just by the way, I know that 0.05, that resolution in itself is not enough to get this to be perfect because of this. As you can see, our toes are losing form, everything's merging together, but everywhere else the mesh seems to be doing pretty fine. So this is where, that's your clue as to what things to kind of rework and adjust to get this sculpt to work perfectly. But now that we have that and it's been remeshed, we have far less vertices available on it, which is perfect. That's what we want. We want something low res that's still high quality that we can use. And with this, you'll be able to use it without having to do the retopology process itself, although it's not the best. And I promise you, unless you have some super machine, you will want to do your own real retopology, like proper ground up. That's advice I'll give. There's a lot of people there, a lot of free software to assist with the whole process, but I won't lie to you, to this day I still prefer to do it myself. Nothing can ever do your retopology properly except yourself, so don't be lazy, just do it. We'll add a multi-res to it. Let's give it a single subdivision for now. As you can see, it's moved down a whole lot and it's looking a little bit better, but that is not where the true power of this comes in. Where it comes in is that after you've done your duplicating, come into the shrink wrap modifier and set your vertices to snap above surface. You can say on surface, it really is not going to make much of a difference, but I prefer that. And then we'll ink drop our original body and we get all of our detailing back, with a little bit of slack here and there. And this is where it becomes all cool again, because you're pretty much turning it all back into our working method res. Remember, we were using multi-res and using it to add all this detailing, but we had to do each part of the body separately, so that it wouldn't kill our sculpt. And of course you can do it in other methods as well. Like I said, there are some shortcuts. If you use your brain a little bit, you'll be able to figure this out. And most of the time your character's feet aren't going to be seen, so this won't be a problem. But you can see with this method, you're getting to keep a lot of your detailing. You're getting to keep, all of those veins and stuff we sculpted, all that muscle structure. And the perfect thing, because it was slightly overly done, when you're losing a little bit of the quality here, it leaves it feeling a little bit more real. And yes, these abs are not realistic in terms of this would be a character that's flexed. I doubt there are many people that are this ripped naturally without flexing slightly. I don't think any of us are that stupid. Anyway, and there we have it, guys. And those are the tricks that I had to show you, things to help you along. And once you've done this and you can apply your shrink wrap, let's Control A on the shrink wrap, and you'll have no problem. Your sculpt will have kept some form. We've obviously lost some form of detailing in here, but because we are in multi-res, and you can still always go back and sculpt in some of these details. Also better position. If we sculpted the inside of the arm, this armpit and everything a little bit, at this point we wouldn't have that part to worry about, but that's for you guys to do in your own spare time. And that's about it, guys. And from there you could just delete your original body mesh and you will have a very low res one to work with, which you'll be able to texture without any issues, or do retopology on top of without having any extra issues and delays. Well, guys, I hope you guys had fun. I had fun doing this. And yeah, do click subscribe, and please share it with all your friends. Share it with the community of designers out there, all the artists out there, all the Bleach fans out there, all the anime fans, and all the people that just love good work, all the World of Warcraft fans out there. And yeah, much love. GG, guys, good.